The views and opinions shared on this show are from personal perspective, life experience of the individuals who share them for entertainment purposes only. This platform, its brand, and participants are not liable for the application and or results of any information shared on this channel. Viewers are advised to conduct their own research and make informed and prayerful decisions for their lives regarding the topics covered on this platform. Warning: this presentation is for adult so. I am beyond fortunate to be surrounded by people who think differently than I do. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Noble Vibe. I am your host, Gigi Renee, and as you can see in all of these boxes, I have some. Here we go.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining. We're very excited that you are here with us. This evening, we have a topic, pretty in pink. So you see we all have on something pink. But topic is very serious. We're talking about breast cancer. And I am very fortunate to have two beautiful women here with me this evening, Tanaya Brown. And I'm going to just say who they are, and they're going to come back and talk to you and tell you a little bit about themselves. And then I have Carlise Charlot. So Tanya, I'm going to go to you first. Talk to us. Tell us about you a little bit.
Good morning. I am, as she said, Tanaya Brown. I am I'm a registered nurse. I practiced as an oncology nurse for 18 years. Before that, I was a medical assistant in oncology for an oncologist who pushed me to go back to school and become. I then became a nurse navigator for oncology after my diagnosis, my personal diagnosis with breast cancer at the age of 35 years old. I am also in ministry. I'm a missionary. My husband is a pastor of City of Hope.
Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm Carlise Charlot with Pink Ribbon Travel. I started Pink Ribbon Travel back in 2016. And I then decided to find a way to give back to the local community by way of travel and hosting fundraising projects with different nonprofits within the community to help support caretakers and the survivors in this breast cancer world.
Okay. So Tanya, I'm going to ask you, I met Tanya not quite 10 years ago. I'm almost at the 10 years ago. I received a diagnosis as having breast cancer, and I went in and they give you all the information that kind of just swirls around your head. And I was scheduled for surgery. I came out of that. And I just, Miss Brown just kind of came and saw about me and was there to answer any questions I have. I think at that time, Tanya, you were the advocate.
I was.
Nurse navigator.
Advocate. We have many titles. The nurse navigator came about, the position came about across the country because we were losing so many patients. We were having so many patients fall through the gaps of seeing so many physicians. So it's an advocate role, nurse role, social services, and resource role.
Well, it was actually a very important role because it was like she was comprehensive. She was like this all-in-one person place that you could go and you could get information you didn't even know you needed. That's what I found very interesting. It's like at the end of a lot of things, people say to us, do you have any questions? And because we'll get up from the table and we walk away, and later, and I do mean later, I could be talking about years later, you discover, oh my goodness, I didn't know this. I should have asked that. So her position was very helpful to just be there as a person who didn't wait for you always to ask the question, right, but provide you with the information. She said, in your diagnosis, do you know what HER2 positive is? Mm-hmm. I was like, well, no, not really.
Right.
Yeah. And she put it in such layman terms. She went beyond layman terms. She went to church terms. Mm. when she spoke it to me, she said, they have a now, you know, being a church person, seek, I get that. Seeks out, she say, and when it finds it, it surrounds it and destroys it. I never forgot that because, and I remember telling her that day, I said, well, I can get with that now. You know, I fully understood what this HER2 positive was in my body. The cancers that I had two, one was very aggressive. And one, of course, was estrogen driven. And to just have her there, I kept her many days from doing the paperwork. I know I did. Because I would go to her office, I would just show up and just take an hour, 2 hours out of the day without even a thought. And she never, ever made me feel like, wow, I really got something I should be doing right now. But she always made us patients feel like we were the priority. Yeah. She had been there. She understood it.
Can I throw two things you just said that I don't want to glance over? That you need to ask, so that you, right. And that's why Ms. Brown's role was so pivotal, because not only did you have a place where you could get an understanding, but you had a person who could communicate with you in a way that you can really comprehend it and understand what was going on. And the second thing you said was that I liked was to advocate for yourself. So I didn't want to glance over those two things, because those are two major things. When you are sick, you have to get an understanding and you have to advocate for yourself. So I just want to put that out there. Go ahead, Carlise.
Something. Let me just say this. Occurred to me, I needed somebody to come. I don't know why it didn't, but it did. Mm-hmm. It was like, well, if you don't have to come by yourself, don't come by yourself. And I'm going to just say this. Dr. went with me to every...
Okay, Lady McNair, can you please stop calling my name on this show?
Oh, yes.
I have, and I'm going to have to bleep that out. I have a stage name, and it's Gigi Renee. Please use that.
Gigi Renee.
I am trying to boost my brand.
I need to write that down.
Okay. Tragic.
All right. Tragic. Well, Gigi went with me to every, or should I just say my daughter?
But there you go.
3 of them, so that's why I'm trying to be specific. But Gigi went with me to every treatment, and her presence actually caused another patient to receive help who was sitting there in crisis. and the husband was sitting there, and he was like, he didn't know what was wrong, but she started this cough, and I remember Gigi got up and went over and was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And this cough just totally overtook her, and she could not talk. He was still standing there like almost frozen. She got the nurses who came, and sure enough, the lady was sitting right there in the chair next to me and was going, or rather across from me, and was going into a crisis situation, sitting right there in the center. So other people being present, I think is a good thing too, especially if they're not just going to totally focus on who they came with, but they're a concern for the other people in the room.
Right. Ms. Brown, jump in.
And can I say this? You said so much. I was even taking notes. You said so much. And I thank God for this opportunity. But one of the biggest things I heard, and one of the biggest things I pushed, is support system. I can't tell you the statistical data about things, but I can tell you in my years as an oncology nurse, this was before I became a navigator, we'd be administering chemo. One thing that I noticed more than anything is most of the patients that I had were like me. And how like me?
Yeah.
They were type A personalities. They were independent women. A lot of educators. A lot of nurses, a lot of teachers, I said educators, teachers, preachers, people that were always seeing about someone else and very, very in charge of things. When I tell you, this was the most humbling experience that I have ever had in my life, because here I was, when I was diagnosed, I was working in the oncology unit at Mayo Clinic, one of the top hospitals, you know. And although my mother was a breast cancer survivor, I had prayed, Lord, please don't ever let me get this. I don't ever want it. But God has greater plans, and it's not a doomsday diagnosis. But I think what you said about the support system, I learned early. And me personally, I was diagnosed with an early stage breast cancer. I chose bilateral mastectomy with reconstruction. But here I am, Miss Independent, still, oh, we got this. I know all about cancer. I know what to do. I'm at a great hospital, da, 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 da. And my humbling experience was in the hospital. It was during a transition for that particular hospital. I found myself in the hospital and I could not get up out of the bed for myself and do what I needed to do. And that was when I realized, after I told my nurse, I think the CNA came in, she said, Ms. Brown, we're going to get your bath ready and this and that. And I was a little offended. I told her, oh, I don't need any help. I got this. And I tried to get up out of the bed after that. And couldn't. I had sent all my family away, and I cried.
Wow.
I cried just to raise my arm, to wash my face, and it was just, that was my breaking point. That was my moment that, hey, you can't do this by yourself. So I then, after press forward with time, afterwards, when I would talk with my patients, I would tell them, one, I've been through this and I made it. You gotta inspire people. Your testimony is everything. We're overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And it's everything. And they would say, you know, they're being told that day, as a navigator, our job was to kind of be that support system too, to talk, break down what the doctor says, because they tend to talk in medical terms, but to also be that shoulder to crown for those that weren't there, those that don't have the support system. But you can find the support system. Somebody saw Gigi in the chemo unit or wherever they were and said, you know what, I need help. Or thank God for her proactiveness. You can pull on other people's support system and find out what your resources are. But it's so important.
Yep.
I think when it comes to support system, a support system is needed just for anything.
Yes.
Anything. Because sometimes when you are I'm gonna use the word the victim, sometimes you can not hear some pivotal information that needs to be heard. And if that other person is there to support you, they will literally get everything that you missed. And
that's good. That is good.
That's just important with anything in life.
Yeah.
And it then becomes a transparent moment because a lot of us women, we are independent. And we don't want to have the nerve or the reliability to then become vulnerable.
That's good. That's good.
And I can tell you the way that I talk about it, I tell patients, I said, listen, it's like you're given a cup and that cup is you. And we as practitioners, we just keep pouring information. We pour it in a couple of days. If it's a really tough diagnosis, we'll pour it all in a couple of hours. And we're constantly pouring in your cup and the water's, at some point, you're full. Like it could be when they say your diagnosis has come back positive for breast cancer.
That's
you're
right.
full.
That's right.
I'm not taking anything else. So that's why it's important to have that family member there taking notes and saying, oh, this is what they say. One of the first things that I point out is get your pathology report. Do you know I still go back and I'm 14 years out. Warrior, that's why I have on my warrior and my pink. But
all right.
You know, I still have to go back and look at it when I see something on CNN, latest news, we have a treatment for this or this is that. I go back and look at my pathology report. It's important to know what label they put on you and what you're dealing with in order to fight the war, fight the fight of faith.
You know what? Can I say something? When you talk about being a warrior, it's important that your support system know how to speak up. Because this is what I found. A lot of times the patient, they're sick, and like you say, they done capped out. They're overwhelmed. They don't hear nothing you saying. It's like Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah.
And I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they don't hear nothing you saying. But at the same time, sometimes what I find, because I've had the privilege and the honor of sitting with a lot of sick people. And what I have found a lot of times is doctors are very smart. And a lot of times it's inconvenient for them to slow down and to really give you an explanation of what they're talking about. So sometimes I have found myself saying, hold on, wait a minute.
Bingo.
Don't rush me. I don't understand what you're saying, and I need you to go back. I apologize if I'm getting on your nerve.
And that's why I feel that it's best to have a female doctor when it comes to things like this to women, because we are more sympathetic to each other as women.
Do you think so?
Men, say it again.
Do you think so? Are we more sympathetic?
I know so because I'm a woman and you're a woman, and you're able to better explain to me. Also know my feelings because again, you are a woman. A man or a male doctor, they're not going to be as sympathetic to a woman as another female person that's speaking.
Okay, I'm gonna challenge the word. I'm gonna challenge the word sympathetic, and I want to replace it with empathetic. Because maybe it's not that they lack sympathy, but they don't understand.
Right. Now I can tell you that some of the best doctors I know are probably the most, and you know this is a male dominated field. Right. But that's why it's important to research who you're going to and to feel comfortable with your practitioner. I can tell you, I read the Google reviews. I ask other people who have been there and done that. Yeah. What do you like? What do you not like? But some of the physicians that are in this field and oncology nurses that are in this field is because we have a tie to it. We fight because our moms were diagnosed, our sisters. I think one plastic surgeon I know, I think he has 4 sisters and they were all dealing with this and the BRCA gene. And to feel comfortable. And what people don't realize is you do have a choice. If you are paying for the surgery, you have the right to choose who you would like to go to and who you feel comfortable asking questions, which is why you see the phone, it has a notes section. Put your question in the note section, or go old school, write it down on a notepad before you go. What are your questions?
That's right.
And sometimes it's the nursing staff that answers the questions, and sometimes it's the physicians. And they actually, they don't come off as though they like it, but they actually thoughts, and you go ahead and say, okay, these are my questions for you, and they'll take your questions one by one. If they're not willing to do that, yeah, you might want to look around.
That's right. It's like a pair of shoes. If they don't fit, then get you another pair.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You try it on until they fit.
Now, y'all, and I don't want to glance over this because I know my audience is very diverse, and y'all are throwing out HER2, BRCA gene. I listen. I need, first of all, go back, because you said something about a BRCA gene, and there was a whole family involved. So I need to really understand that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So majority of breast cancer diagnoses are no hereditary factors. It just happens. We don't know why it happens. There's the thought that it's environmental plus biologic with your family history. For me personally, I test BRCA negative. I had the retest done, which BRCA is the genetic mutation that they've discovered that women and families who have high risk breast cancer and ovarian cancer in their family tend to test positive for the BRCA gene mutation. It's what we know about through research. The reality of it, which I said, I've tested negative even for the variants that they discovered more gene mutations or how to identify it in certain people. Population is the which is mainly the Caucasian population. The reason being is because research, people of color have been so harmed in research. Let's just be honest. I mean, we got Tuskegee, we have all that. So you hear research and you're like, I'm not doing it. You know, this has meant me no good, especially when the government's involved. But we have had, because of that, the majority of the statistics and the majority of data is placed on those that they have information about. And so the ones that they have information about is who I still encourage, I'm a big advocate of participating in research that you were going to get the treatment anyway. Nothing has changed. You're getting the same treatment and you're being made aware of every step of the process. That's the difference. We have laws that protect us now. It's a big difference, but always educate yourself and be aware. So back to the BRCA gene. So we only know about that one per se. And when I was diagnosed, my doctor my oncologist reviewed my information, and she says, well, I understand that you tested negative, but listen, you have something. Mind you, majority of people don't have something, but I have that family history trail. And in addition, I grew up in an area, when we moved to Georgia, the area was highly contaminated with arsenic. We didn't find out till later, till a lot of people were dying. A lot of our areas in Jacksonville, Florida, and a lot of our areas in the South have been contaminated with pesticide. But long story short, most people don't have the gene mutation, but with that pathology report, with all the tests that they do, look it up, research it, find out, join these support groups so you can find out more information, so you can become more proactive. As I said, I tested negative, but I know that I'm a cancer survivor, and it's rare for a 35-year-old to be diagnosed. So I stay on the up and up with the young survivors groups. What do I look for? I stay on top of my health. That's a big issue that everybody should be doing, whether you've been diagnosed or not. Stay on top. Know your body. The first symptom that I had was I was tired all the time. And I deal with that whole life. My iron must be low. I took iron pills. They didn't work. I was tired. I said, well, I need to exercise. I'm overweight. I went for a walk around the block and came home and got into bed after every walk. Something was wrong. So when my cousin called me and said, I've been diagnosed with bilateral breast cancer, I said, you know what? I'm going to the doctor too. And I'm going to tell her to test me for everything. And the doctor did just that. So that's my little spill on BRCA negative. And it was a fight. Warrior, listen. They told me I was too young to get the mammogram. They told me that she didn't know I was a nurse. She didn't know I was in oncology. But she was turning me away that day when I went to get my mammogram. I had to fight for it. I had to stay on top of the doctor's office just to get my result. And in my own personal mind, I would have given up. But there was something within me that, and I know what it was, the Holy Spirit, but there was something within me that said, no, don't just write it off. I'm covered in the blood. I'm fine. You have to be wise.
Right.
It's the BRCA testing, because breast cancer runs very high on my dad's side of the family. His mother deceased of ovarian cancer and breast cancer. He has a sister that deceased of breast cancer and ovarian cancer. He has another sister that's in remission of breast cancer. He has his oldest sister that just turned 92 in November, was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was the size of a grapefruit. They decided to just let her be because they didn't want to add more. They wanted to keep her at the quality of life that she already had versus taking away from her. So when I went in to do the BRCA testing, I went as far as my insurance will let me go with what they would cover. Because anything after that, they were not going to cover. I was going to have to come out of pocket with it. And we're talking about TRICARE, which is a very good insurance. So I tested negative, but I don't care what day of the week it is. If my breasts don't feel good, I'm calling Mayo. And they do get me in ASAP. Because I don't play with it. Even though you said negative, it's too far down the line on the gene scale, but I still don't trust that.
That's a good point you made about advocating for yourself. Go ahead and jump back in, Tanya.
Can I tell you this? This is the thing. Too many of us are fearful. It breaks my heart. The women that would come to us with a diagnosis from my church, that tears me up. That have this lump that just kept growing, because they didn't have a family history. Oh, it must be a cyst. Oh, I'm pleading the blood of Jesus over it. Baby, you came in when it was stage 4. Listen, breast cancer is totally treatable when caught early enough, whether you're African American, Caucasian, Indian, Hispanic. Listen, the key is catching it early enough. That's the key. And being aware. The factor now, Ms. McNair shared about HER2. HER2, we think of HER2 positive or negative or ER positive. Those terminology, I like to think of it like a satellite. I don't know if you all notice on the little description of the COVID antigen, when you look at it, it has satellites. And we have a satellite on the outside of our house. That's what it's like. And they say you have the ER receptor positive or ER receptor negative. Those are receptors. And so what they do is when estrogen enters the body with an ER, estrogen receptor positive female, that means that estrogen makes your cancer grow. That signal connects and it grows. We all have the HER2 new and antigen with antibody in our bodies, but Miss McNair, hers reacted and it was positive. I'm sorry, Gigi.
It's fine. I will edit that out. That's fine.
But either which way, it's good to know. Because the biggest, the ones that African American women of color, Caribbean, African descent women have to worry about more than anything is triple negative. Why? Because triple negative kills. That's why we have a higher rate of death among women of color with breast cancer. Although Caucasian women or non-women of color have more incidences of breast cancer, they found in the data that we actually die more of the disease. We have a more aggressive type disease, whether it be HER2 positive which at one time was deadly diagnosis. I mean, I remember when I started giving chemo and we would look and see HER2 positive and we would just shake our head and say, oh my, she's limited on time, because we didn't have Herceptin then. Now we have Herceptin and great chemotherapy is not of the devil. I know we think it is, but God allowed them to invent it, and it's natural products from trees and from roots and from all things that we use to make the chemotherapy. But African American women,
wait, stop it. Rewind, go back. What you say they make it out of?
Trees, roots, vegetation.
Listen,
it's not some synthetic stuff made in the lab.
Listen, so to all of my audience, I want you to make a note. This is why they trying to monetize roots and berries. We better go back to what we know and where we come from and eat from the earth. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Let me jump in. You know, with I've been taking synthetic estrogen for 26 years now. Had a complete hysterectomy at the age of 25. And my concern always has been, because it's always been out there, that taking artificial estrogen can cause cancer. But when it comes time for my yearly appointments, I'm now told that I don't have to go out and have the testing done every year anymore. I can do it now every 3 years, every 4 years. But I've been on the replacement for so long. When is enough enough? Can you answer that, Dr. Tanya? Or Nurse Tanya?
Praise God. You know what? I need to go back to school because my baby keeps calling me doctor.
Listen.
I believe you all are speaking in existence. But when you say artificial estrogen, what do you mean? What's the drug?
Pill. Hormonal replacement, estrogen.
Tamoxifen?
No, ma'am. Estrogen. Estrogen like a 2.5 pill every day.
So, okay, so some women take estrogen for hysterectomies and so that they don't get the hot flashes and stuff. But I'm not aware of any synthetic estrogen, which is man-made. I'm only aware of the estrogen that we get from, we actually get it from animals in the laboratory, and we make it into pills and so forth, which a lot of medicines, insulin is another one, they come from pigs. So listen, I'm not, unless I have the specific one, I'm not really familiar with what a synthetic hormone replacement therapy.
So what is your take on hormone replacement pills?
Ooh, go to your doctor and have them break it down whether or not you should be taking or you should not.
They're recommending I still take them. They're recommending I still take them.
Okay. At one time, we were recommending, it changes as we gain more knowledge. That's why it's important to educate yourself on the specifics, what you're diagnosed with. Okay, so at one time, when you were estrogen receptor positive, we started saying not only don't take estrogen, don't take birth control, don't take the hormone replacement therapy for hot flashes and so forth, but we expanded it to say don't overconsume soy products, because soy products have estrogen in it. Other things, other methods, milk, different things. So we would expand it. The key is being knowledgeable, because there's so many different thoughts. Even yearly, I used to go to the yearly conferences to get the updates on what was new and what we shouldn't do and what we should do. There's the thought that if you had your lymph nodes removed, you should never have blood pressure ever taken in that arm.
That's right.
The thought changed when we knew more. We made more people aware that you can, depending on how many lymph nodes you have removed. And most people say, well, I don't know, they just told me they took out lymph nodes. On the pathology report, it tells you how many lymph nodes. If they did a total dissection, you have to be aware that you can end up with lymphedema. So there's so many different thoughts, but the thought now with blood pressures and taking blood or whatever, if it's an emergency, do you want to die or do you want to deal with lymphedema? You know, you have to weigh the concept, but The other thing is, I think I have 2, maybe 3 lymph nodes taken out. I get blood pressures, IV sticks, and I have no problem. So I think the key is making yourself aware and staying on the up and up, because things change. We find out new things along the way.
Right. I just want to say this. I have this motto that I say it all the time. This body is a Judas. It will betray you after a while. So for me, because I've struggled with losing weight for so long, and when you started talking about the estrogen, Carlise, that really brought me to like this issue. Because on my dad's side of the family, honey, we is half red. So when she started talking about that estrogen, listen, honey, listen. I done went to the
wax don't help me.
Listen, wax don't help me neither. Let me tell you something. I went to the esthetician, and she put the little wax on me. You know, the little that you use with all the other women. And she said, "Oh no, I have to order the heavy wax for you." I say, "You ain't got to do it like that, lady." And then still had to pluck the stuff out. But listen, when you talk about being a warrior and being an advocate for yourself, because I've struggled to lose weight so long and I've tried every diet plan, I finally came to my senses and I say, these people don't know nothing about my body. I got to do my own research and discover what will stimulate my metabolism. How can I help advocate for myself? And when I get those reports, I want them to print the whole report out and give it to me so I can go line by line and do my own research to figure out what's going on with my body.
Yes. And that's key, because if you know your body, you know what's happened to you. What I discovered something. I have AFib. And the doctor was saying, I asked him, I said, well, it's genetic. Is it this and that? And by the way, women, listen, we're talking about breast cancer, but do you know the number 1 factor of death amongst women?
Cardiac.
It's heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
It's heart disease. And then it's breast cancer. And I think the third one was strokes. But listen, you have to know yourself. Know what the big thing, at one time they said, do the self breast exams. Then they came out and said, no, we don't want you to do the breast self-exam because it's causing too many false negatives. I was outraged. I said, for years, we pleaded with women, please touch your body, because we went through the era. Grandma said, no, you don't do that. That's not holy.
Come on.
But let me tell you, if you don't know your body, how can somebody else know your body?
Come on.
You got to know if a lump was there. Did it start off small? How long is it growing? Does it involve your spouse? Involve your daughters? I tell daughters, listen, auntie over there taking a bath and she powders up and she smells real good. Do you know how many aunties and grandmas under that household, under all that powder, had a breast cancer mass that was oozing green gook, and she was hiding it from you? Help them with a bath sometimes. Say, I just want to help you. I want to help you put on your house coat. Daughters, ask mama, when was the last time you went for a mammogram? Have a relationship that you can say, Mama, I feel something here. Mm-hmm. Sister McNair knows them. They have 2 young ladies. They had a lump at 18. Mm. Had a lump at 18 by the time, and then when they went to the doctor, said, oh, you're too young, it's nothing, it's not breast cancer, it's nothing. By the time they were diagnosed, they were stage 4 breast cancer.
Yeah. I know we're a panel of women that are speaking about breast cancer, but we can't forget about the men as well, that men also do develop breast cancer.
Yes,
they do.
Yes. And it's much more aggressive when men have it. So women, you're the one that usually advocate for your husbands and your sons, and they confide in us. Feel it. And then you're the one that's going to have to say, no, we're making an appointment right now. Oh, I'm glad I'm on that. Listen, women, we are proactive about our children. Little Johnny and little have a fever for 99 degrees, and we're calling up the doctor, oh, my baby, something's wrong because they didn't sleep. But yet we put our health on the line. And if it's us, we wait weeks, we wait months. How important are you to God? Ooh, Lord, I feel chills all up my body.
My body is God's temple, so I got to make sure I keep it in check. So even with COVID-19 going on, I was like, I can't sit here and eat all these honey buns, eat all these Haagen-Dazs ice cream on the stick, all the gelato in the container. I have to get out the house because I'm about to go crazy. So I got with some church members of mine, and now we start to exercise Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And Tuesdays we do it virtual because I didn't get to the age of 51 just because.
Girl, you 51?
You look good.
Thank you. I gotta figure out how do I continue to maintain this at 51.
Right. So why is it that we, though, the majority of women, we are eating honey buns and baking cakes during this COVID experience? But why is it that we put ourselves on the back burner when we know, like, we have the knowledge? We've had so much breast cancer awareness, like this show. But what is it within us that say, no, I have to take care of this? I have one young lady, she's older, but I call her a young lady. She took care of her son and her whole family. And then by the time she was diagnosed, she waited till his funeral, waited till everything was done with that. Then she knew she had the slump. Then she got checked out. Why is it that we put our health on hold?
We have to go back to making ourselves a priority. And that's something that I had to learn because my son is in the military, so he's gone now. He's in Kuwait. My daughter is 28 years old, raising my granddaughter. I help out with them when I can because they're doing what they want to do. They're not thinking about me. So I had to figure out, other than travel, because that's what I like to do, how do I do me again? Because I was a spouse for 26 years. So all I knew was to take care of family because their dad stayed gone all the time. So somehow in all of that, I lost myself. I completely lost myself. And of course, you're in the kitchen making all of these big meals. So then that just became a habit. And that's a part of my background because of how I was raised. My mom is the oldest of 13 kids.
That's how we were raised.
Yes, we were raised. So that mentality of taking care of home, that was all we knew. So I just had to figure out a way, how do I get back to taking care of me? Even to this day, sometimes I still struggle with it because I find myself still being busy trying to take care of everybody else.
Me too.
Or praying for everybody else and forgetting about myself.
Now we
now, ma'am.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
And mind you, now everything that I'm praying for, God is manifesting for them and for me. But at the same time, I still have neglected myself. So I say, okay, what am I going to eat this week? What am I going to eat this week? So I try my best not to do the sugars at all. If I do, I'll go get it just at one time, and then that's it. I'm not going to make a cake. If I do, I'm going to have one piece and give the rest away. I bought a case of honey buns from Sam's during COVID. I got 3 left, but they should have been gone. But when I want that little piece of sweet, I'm going to eat that honey bun with a glass of milk. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's about, I make sure I get that protein in and some vegetables. I don't care if it's sauteed. I may have rice once a week, I may not. I may have bread once a week, I may not. But my key thing is, just for any woman that's trying to keep a moderate at the weight level, all I eat is a lot of meat, fruits, vegetables. And all my vegetables, you know that old-fashioned way of cooking greens? You got a boil of water, you got to put the meat in the pot and boil all of that. My days of that is over with. I cook my greens now, I literally just saute them in a pan with olive oil. And I put the tricolor peppers in it. And if I want to like boil some turkey, smoked turkey meat or whatever, I'll boil that first and take it off the bone. But I'm just sauteing all of my vegetables now because I had to change my mindset on how I wanted to eat.
Yeah, this is a beautiful segue to the next part of this conversation. This is not just, I want to go back to something that was said. Tanya, you said, how important are you to God? And Carlise, you said that your body's a temple. We all know that. We all know the Bible on how we should take care of ourselves, and a lot of our society now is becoming more conscious. But I want to focus right now on women, because my mother and I have these types of conversations all the time, because for so many years I watched her give, selflessly giving, taking out of her pocket to buy for her children, to do for her husband when she was lacking and she needed things, and she needed to take time to really pay attention. Mom, what I want you to do, how easily is it for women to get distracted, not taking care of themselves?
Well, I think it's a part of our makeup, in all honesty, especially in the Black community. I really do. And I think, unfortunately, we're encouraged to be all about everybody else. And we're looked at in an unpleasant way if you take time for you. Now, that's just real.
Yes.
So people say, oh yeah, she's selfish or something.
Selfish.
And it might be you're not selfish. You just want to do something. You just have an idea, or you just have some expectation you set for yourself. And nobody wants to get on board with it. Why? Because it means you actually will glean something for you. And as far as that losing ourselves is concerned, I think marriage is truly the great segue to losing yourself. Because we marry people, God bless us, especially those of us in the church. We marry people, and then we're somehow under the belief that the more I give away of myself, somehow that's identified as being holy, or, really in tune with God, and then there are other parts of the word where it says that, you to love me like you love yourself, but at the same time, when we really look at people, they don't really love themselves. So how are they supposed to love you like that?
Mama, can I say something? Even the marriage vows. We just went to a wedding, and I listened to a preacher do the marriage vows, and I promise you, them things made me so mad. I'm like,
but let me say this too. A godly marriage consists of balance. A godly lifestyle consists of balance. If you really have that old time subservient, I'm always going to serve you and you're going to always dictate to me, that doesn't work well. We don't serve a God like that.
No.
And I think the thing that to keep in mind, I know what's kept me is keeping God first. Because God talks to me and he helps me and he sends me reminders and he sends me knowledge. But not just that, he teaches us how to be husbands and wives. I thank God for my husband, being there, being that cheerleader by my side and supporting me. And I'll be honest, after I was discharged from the hospital after surgery, he was so exhausted from caring for the kids and caring for me, he fell out on the bed burning up with fever. So it's important. And let me say this, have your good support system before time of trouble. Don't wait till time of trouble. You're trying to seek help and this and that, and you never wanted anybody around you. That's not the time to find your church support system. Sometimes your church family is the only family you have. Build yourself. And I'm going to tell you the mistake that I made. People from the church had said, oh, what do you need? What help you need? We're here to help you. The Lord had to rebuke me because one of my sisters in the Lord called me and I said, oh, here I go, being champion Tanya, number one, always taking care of her own business. I said, we're fine. My husband's doing what he needs to do or whatever. And he was exhausted. There's only so much that one person can do. I couldn't help myself. But the Lord dealt with me. He said, you sow all these seeds. Why won't you let people sow into your life? You're able to reap from you sowing. Let them reap. Let people bless you. Let people do for you. It's okay. You're not considered weak by doing that. You're allowing them to sow seeds into your life. The same way, Sheila, you allow Gigi to sow into your life. You allow me to sow into your life so that I may reap blessings. But I will say this, we're God's children. God has our backs. Do you know I was in denial before I got diagnosed? and I wasn't hearing God clearly. I was too overwhelmed. God literally locked me out my own house, locked me out my house, locked me out the car. And I heard the voice of the Lord say, go sit down on the back porch. And he spoke to me before I was diagnosed. And he said, you shall live and not die and declare the works of the Lord. That kept me my entire journey. That keeps me now that he proclaimed over me that I was going to live and not die. And I can't say enough. That keeps me.
Listen.
A lot of times we don't never want to seek the outside support system because it always or has come to a point where a lack of disappointment somewhere has taken place when you've reached out to someone to try and help you with this.
That's good.
So to keep from having to put your vulnerability on the line again, you gotta just suck it up. You just suck it up. Hey, let me do what I gotta do.
Listen. But you got to know who your ace poo is. Come on. I'm serious. I know mine. I know where I can go to.
But look, I got 3 of y'all now.
you know, daughters, and I'm gonna tell you something. If daughters and mothers can find appreciation one for another and just let bygones be bygones, forgive each other, and learn how to build on that relationship, you got a best friend. You got a cool. You have. I've always been the soldier, but when I was down or when I can't speak to myself, my daughter stepped in and she was like, I need to know why you all keep coming in here waking up my mother. My husband stepped in and he said, I want to know why y'all just giving her ice. He almost fought the people, Lord Jesus, over not giving me a cup of water. But when I'm down and can't speak for myself, I need that type of person. It could be that best friend that say, everybody get out.
That's right.
Let's get her together. Let's prep her hair. Know what I like.
There are different dynamics to every group of people, and you got your nice one, you got your prayed up one, but you got that one that'll cut everybody, and that's fine because you need every type of personality in your corner, and that's the beauty of diversity. We have to learn how to love one another, support one another, and I